So the highlight of my trip here to the Pima Air and Space Museum is that plane right there behind me. So I have two airplanes that are my dream airplanes that I have always just loved. One is the P-51 Mustang, which I'm building a replica of, the Titan T-51, and then this, the SR-71. Just always been amazed with it since I was a kid, and it is super cool to be down here walking around it and able to touch it. So highlight of the trip, there are some cool airplanes in here. I'm grabbing some pictures, I'll grab some photos and post those, but ultimately this is, I probably spent the last 30 or 40 minutes just walking around this thing. So if you get a chance, if you like this plane, up close and personal opportunity to look at it, and hope you enjoy a little bit of an overview of the Pima Air and Space Museum. So pretty awesome display of the SR-71. I had no idea that there was interchangeable nose cones that had different functions and purposes that they would bolt on and off and change. And completely new information. View of the flight suit, which is basically a astronaut suit. Cockpit with the ROS, or the reconnaissance officer, in the back with tiny little windows. Don't know that I would have been cool sitting back there in A. I'm probably too big, but pretty cool to see. In the background there you see a basically a drone that was set up, a reconnaissance drone that they would mount to the back of the SR-71 and then B-52s and on launch. An amazing bird. I'm thinking kid in a candy store. So airplane favorite number 3, the A-10 Warthog. They had a cockpit section in the early part of the exhibition, and here's a full-size one. So. So I'm still in the main hangar, number 1, and they have the SR-71 in here as well as this A-10 Warthog. So super awesome. I highly recommend if you have time. I'm gonna have to come back on a different trip and just spend a day or so in each hangar. So today will be a quick overview, but if you have a chance, Pima Air and Space Museum, Tucson, Arizona, it is an awesome facility.
Okay, on your left here, this one really has an impressive history. On the left here, we have the B-52 Stratofortress. It's a later version of the plane that was introduced in 1959 and served until 1994. This aircraft served the 91 Gulf War with Iraq, participating in what was at the time the longest combat mission flown in history. On the first night of the Gulf War, January 1991, this aircraft and several others flew from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana non-stop to Iraq and back, launching cruise missiles at targets near Baghdad. In all, the planes were refueled 4 times in the air. You ready for this? It flew for a total of 35 hours before landing. Coming up on the left side is going to be our Navy airplane collection. These planes perform the same jobs as land-based combat planes, fighters and bombers, They also have to incorporate strength and structures to withstand the forces of being capitulated off carrier decks, yanked to a stop, and landing on the ships. Taking off and landing on ships is one of the most difficult jobs an aviator can have. The runway is only 500 feet long and only 4 cables stretched across to catch and hook in the bottom of the plane. You added the fact the runway is moving away from you at 35 miles per hour, bouncing up and down as much as 30 feet at a time. Studies have shown that landing on an aircraft carrier is more stressful for naval aviators than being shot at in combat. Being highly skilled pilots is a must for these planes. On our left, probably needs no introduction, McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet. The Blue Angel's color of blue and yellow. The Hornet is currently one of the primary fighters used by the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. They have been in service since the early 80s, and the later versions expected to remain in use for the foreseeable future. This one flew in the U.S. Navy Blue Angels aerobatic team for several years, retired in 2013. On the left, where I'm pointing, you're looking at the EA 6-speed prowler. It's the gray aircraft with the long tube coming out of the nose. Electronic warfare aircraft that are designed to jam or destroy enemy radar. This prowler here to our left has a unique history. In the late 90s, the Marines needed more prowlers. One of the ways they got them was to refurbish old aircraft and put them back into service. For this airplane here, 3 prowlers were removed from our storage facility right here in Tucson, and their parts were combined into just one aircraft. This plane went into service in 2004. On your left, the last group of airplanes we're talking about are the Harriers. This is a collection of various versions of vertical takeoff and landing jet fighters, only 3 types of vertical lift aircraft ever built. Originally designed by Hawker Aviation in the United Kingdom, the Harrier was adopted by the British military and U.S. Marine Corps in the 1970s. 4 rotating nozzles under the wings direct the exhaust from the engine downward for vertical flight. The silver aircraft in the middle of the row is one of the experimental Kestrel prototypes tested in 1964 that led to the first production of Harriers in 1969. The other aircraft, all which were built in England, served in the British Royal Navy, Air Force, or with the U.S. Marine Corps.
Finishing off, not long enough here at the museum. Figure I need probably about another 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 days. Made it through the main hangar, did the tour around the outside, got a little bit of footage for that, and hopefully enjoy it. It was definitely worth the visit. If you're ever down in the Tucson area, you've got to make sure that this is a stop on your trip.